last night. So it was quite the hairy ride driving down I-70 with all that rain last night. So, but beautiful scenery. So let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. So let's call this meeting to order. I'm Larimer County Commissioner Jody Shaw McNally, chair of the board, or not chair of this committee, and let's do roll call and see if we have quorum. Thank you.
Just give me a second while I pull up our committee roll. All right, Samantha Albert, Christy Belton.
I'm here on the phone.
Oh, great. Thanks, Sam. Christy Belton.
I'm here. Morning.
Pat Dorsey. Matt McCombs. Commissioner Jody Shattuck McNally.
Present.
Mark Morgan.
Present.
Julie Stencil. Selwyn White Skunk. And I'm just hoping my list is up to date. Well, that's everybody's on the call, right? So I don't think we have quorum today.
Hey, Angela.
Do we only need 5?
I think we need.
Angela, Julie just sent an email saying that she's going to join shortly.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you. Actually, we only need 4, so we're fine.
Okay, well, thank you all for being here today. Have anybody had a chance to review the minutes? Have any questions or concerns or additions, changes?
I'll
I have
move that
reviewed them.
Go ahead, Mark.
I just said I have reviewed them and I would move to accept them.
And I'll second.
Great. There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Approval of the minutes is passed, and now let's move on to our discussion item. Continue discussion on the timeline for the committee meetings. And I know that Courtney sent that out for all of us to look at. I was hoping maybe Angela or James could put that up on the screen so we can kind of continue that discussion. And I wouldn't say this timeline is, as I understand it, we're not making this a permanent. It's going to be like a living document, but I thought we should look at it again, see what other thoughts you've had since the last 2 weeks. And I don't, if Angela or James, can one of you bring that up? Thank you.
And let me know. I can scroll as needed.
Yeah. So we can, so remember this, as they said before, these are the week of, it's not the actual date of our meetings, but the week of. And so that would be the Monday. And so just wanted to make sure that we get that, understand that, because I know that was a little confusing last time. So now we're on September 11th, and I figure this is kind of our prep or planning for the next, cycle. So I thought maybe we could go ahead, Angela, maybe just put in there that we're planning our meeting, a year of meetings, or our planning calendar. I don't know what we could put in there, because we might need to go back next year and just, if we have to make any adjustments, we might want to just put on the calendar for future planning, that if we have to come back and adjust or change, we just have a placeholder to kind of review that and make sure we're all on the same page for going forward. So overall, how does everyone feel about this format or this plan overall? Anybody have any concerns, or does everyone feel pretty good about this backwards planning, and so that we can kind of get into the budget discussions with the governor's office and more? So I'm just curious what everyone thought about what we talked about last time in this kind of format. Any concerns or any comments?
I think it makes good sense to to approach it this way.
Okay, great. Okay, so can we go, Julie, welcome. Thank you for being here. So we're just approved the minutes and we're just going through and looking at this. We just started discussion on this calendar and just getting some feedback if everyone feels comfortable with this format and kind of going forward still with this and filling in some more dates, or does everyone feel like this could be a living document and we can kind of tweak it going forward? Any comments? Okay. Okay, let's go back up to what's up. Can we go to the date? I think I like the date for the governor's budget, and kind of those budgets of departments might be a good date to kind of go to again and kind of think. I feel like that's kind of our important date to kind of keep in mind for when we talk about some of these asks for finances going forward. Is that in July?
It is in July, but we usually, and let me see if Courtney has this in here. We usually ask agencies to submit their concepts. Let's see. Yeah, by sometime in May, and I can clarify with our budget director, Carly, exactly when that is. Basically, you know, the governor's office gives us guidance on what the budget is looking like, and targets, like each department has targets. And then we solicit budget concepts and legislative concepts from the departments, and they submit them, and then we basically narrow it down to, you know, the director's top priorities. And those are what are submitted by July 17th. So there's this process between sort of the end of April, May, and July, when it's internal deliberations about priorities. So yeah, I think this calendar though makes sense in the sense that you all will have recommendations ready, hopefully, and approved by the end of April. That would then go to the powers that be, you know, whether it's Director McCombs. I mean, actually this timeline I would imagine is very similar for the Department of Public Safety. So let's just say you did have any budget item recommendations for DFPC. I think this timeline would probably work out too.
We were talking about this. I was just at a budget conference for the big 10 counties, and we were talking about different budgets, and that makes it very confusing for a lot of us because, like, the county's budget we approve it in December, they go from January to January. The school board budget goes from like July to July. I think the city budgets are around October, and then the state's budget. So I think, and I don't know how some of these organizations or the U.S. Forest Services, some of these other folks with the budgets and the recommendations. Just something I was thinking about as we're all trying to coordinate about services and things, how that kind of budget requests are interesting. So I just thought that was good that maybe we revisit that, because that is something to keep in mind as we're making budget requests and things like that. So it's sometimes I'm always amazed at how many different parts are always moving with different agencies working together. And I thought, as we're working with the federal government, other partners, something I'm going to try to keep in the back of my mind. So, so I guess we should go back maybe a little bit then. We looked at the deliberation meeting, and then we looked at giving ourselves a little more time for that. Is everyone good with just having 2 days of deliberation? I know last time we took, I think, 2.5, almost 3. But I'm thinking with the spread out kind of presentation, we might have enough time to really dig in. And I want to kind of talk about when we should put on the calendar that we're also kind of, we have a presentation, but I thought all those dates we should still put in legislative action updates as well, because we'll probably be having some kind of legislation. So I thought maybe that just only presentations, we should have some legislative updates, yeah, on all of them, just so that they are part of the presentation. So we kind of plan for that in case we need to take votes or have discussions. Is everyone good with that? Christy?
So you mentioned that we've got 2 deliberation meetings scheduled, and this year I think we needed a little bit more, right? Should we just go ahead and build in 1 more and move those presentations up 1 week, just so that we're not, you know, having to vote to extend a meeting and all of that? And just do 3, give ourselves a little bit of breathing room, and if we get it all done in 2, then we can skip a week.
I think that's a great suggestion. How does everyone feel about that? Anyone opposed to that?
No, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. Also, if we have an extra deliberation meeting, if we need to feel like we need to pull someone back in to kind of answer some questions, in one of those meetings, it gives us a little bit of a room in case we want to change that kind of conversation. And make it like, hey, we want to hear more about this before we make our decision or something. So I think that would be great. Angela and James, does that sound okay?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's smart because in the event that something really crazy is happening during the legislative session, and you need to spend a whole meeting just talking about potential amendments or something, I think this just gives you a bit more time.
When is the JBC, in case we have to go a test fire, where some of these, sometimes the legislation kind of paused. Remember how we paused, we were waiting? And that was usually about March, right?
So the long bill, if that's sort of what
Yeah.
you're looking to, yeah, it doesn't usually get solidified until sort of March, April sometimes.
And that seemed to kind of pause some of our bills a little bit while they were doing that, right?
Right.
So,
Although James, you probably have a better memory of the calendar because you.
No, you've got it right. So, it usually the JBC starts their kind of budget presentations in early to like, well, not early, I'd say late to mid-March. And usually that first kind of, that first committee hearing is going to be in April. And so once it's through that first house, it starts to move pretty quickly. But yeah, you're right. They have to prioritize how much discretionary spending they have for legislation. And that's usually what we have to hold on to, is to see how long and how much we can spend. But that's usually figured out by mid-April, because they usually want to have that signed before the 30-day calendar for the governor, in case he vetoes part of it, that there's time to come back and override a veto. But with a unified legislature, I don't anticipate that happening. But planning for that, the governor will always sign a budget. We'll always get the budget to the governor to sign for 30 days, just in case there is a veto override. So, but yes, I think April is a good time for that kind of like wait and see, to see what kind of legislation is going to pass with the money.
so does James and Angela, does that deliberation time then feel kind of appropriate for us to have that flexible time, since we might be paused with that, the JBC and the long bill kind of being the focus? Does that sound like a good place to be?
I think so.
Okay, great. And I like the open committee meeting to be held for questions. Okay, so we go backwards just a little bit. And but maybe just a little bit more. So I figure that on the week of the December 25th and through the 8th, I figure a lot of us either on vacation or have things. So I thought maybe start an appropriate session, but maybe activate to provide direction on bills. I figured that should maybe go up the week before. Because I don't think we want to try to have any meetings between Christmas and New Year's is one thing I saw. So I thought maybe those should just be kind of I don't know about anyone, but I just thought maybe we should move that one back.
I think that would be great.
And James, can you jog my memory? So, I mean, obviously with the interim committees, they have bill drafters working sort of as they're finishing up their business like in the fall. But
Mhm.
for just normal members, do a bunch of them start working with bill drafters before the session actually starts? I realize I don't know the answer to that question. Okay.
Yeah, actually,
Short answer is yes.
yeah, I'm working on 2 bills already that they pulled bill titles and but they're broadband bills. So, and we're already working on those. We've been talking about those, and then some of the party bills are already being voted on for counties. We're meeting that in 2 weeks where we'll be voting on priority bills. And so some of those bills, when they pull the bill title, that kind of, so I've already got 2 bills that have bill titles pulled. So, and someone joined on 303. Can we just identify who else joined us today?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
This is Katie McGrath Novak. Sorry, I'm
welcome.
late.
No, don't be worried about that. I just want to make sure we identified who come. Welcome, Katie. Thanks for being here. Okay. So I just thought we should kind of, maybe let's maybe just put December 25th and January 1st in green or something just for the holidays, just kind of blocking them so we don't even try to put anything there because I'm sure we'll have not great attendance anyway. So, and then going back, looking on the week of the 27th, that's around I think just keeping it may be activated, but I doubt we'll do that in November, with, what's the weekend before. So I guess that would be December 1st. So I guess that one's okay, but the week of the 20th, I figured that's another one that we may not, with it being Thanksgiving week. Yeah. Sorry, I know it sounds like I'm being picky, but I just want to kind of make sure we don't like schedule something ahead and not like, oh, wow, that was a holiday. We probably shouldn't do that. So. Okay, great. Thank you, Angela. Great. Okay, any other comments or additions or changes? Everybody. Mr. Morgan.
Just one quick one. How does your schedule line up with Easter?
Yep, thank you. Does anyone know when Easter is? I'm looking.
Just we're usually meeting on Fridays, and for some folks, Good Friday is pretty important.
I agree. I have it as March 31st is Sunday is Easter, so it'd be the Friday before that.
28th?
The 29th, I think, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that might be, I mean, depending on how your deliberation is going, you could either just take that week as a full break or try to reschedule your meeting, but obviously do that closer to the time. Just a thought, but we can block it out for now as a holiday.
Yeah, let's,
Our meetings are usually in the morning, correct?
yeah,
I just know that a lot of people, Good Friday is important to them, usually in the afternoon or evening. And I would like to try to accommodate that for folks. But if the meeting's in the morning, it would probably be fine.
let's just mark it and then we'll see as we get closer. We might have to change or do something, but let's see what happens. And it might just give us enough, time just in case we have to pull one. We can always pull it to Thursday or something too, if the council so moved like we did last time. So I think there's a little flexibility if we plan ahead enough time. If we give everybody enough time, maybe a Thursday meeting that week might work, just to pull it up a day, just something to kind of take note of if everyone's comfortable with that. Okay. All right, I think this is a pretty good calendar I don't feel like we have to have all the details in to have it this is still, I think, a living document, as I said. Does anyone else have anything else to add, or they feel pretty good with this kind of initial planning calendar?
This feels good.
Great. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. So let's move on to our next item. And Angela and James, do you guys feel good about what we have on there?
I do.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think
great.
so. The one piece of clarification I will do is I will talk to Carly and just make sure we know exactly when departments need to submit their proposals, because we just want to ensure that these recommendations come out with sufficient time for the departments to consider them and decide if the departments themselves want to advance items as decision items. So it's all to say that whatever the date is that Carly gives me for that internal submission, we probably just need to make sure we've worked back at least 3 weeks. So I can check on that. I don't think it'll change the calendar massively, because I know it's all around the time that we have, but it'll just provide some clarity.
So I don't think we need to take a vote on this, correct? Because it's still kind of a draft, quote unquote. We can just kind of, okay, just want to make sure. Because we're not, I just, it's just a working calendar, not really, we're not really voting to approve it. We're just kind of making a draft. Okay, so let's move on to our next item, which is topics, I believe, correct? So I know it's kind of hard to wrap our head around potential topics, but like we talked about before, is getting speakers and giving staff enough time to find speakers and schedule some big items. So I just wanted to make sure that we kind of give some ideas and thoughts. So I thought maybe we'd start with just concepts. I know it feels like we just got done doing all of that, but I think there's some big topics that we can, it feels like we've been doing this all summer. It feels like we just did it yesterday. But I thought maybe if we just threw up some big topics, maybe we can start looking for some good speakers to come in and fill in for us. We had our subcommittee meeting yesterday for the Fire Commission and the Forest Health Council that prescribed burn subcommittee meeting, and I thought it might be interesting to bring, there was some really great discussion yesterday. I think believe Katie was there as well, and I thought maybe I had to leave at the last few minutes because like I said, I was at this budget conference, and I thought maybe it might be great to have them, one of those folks with the fire Fire Commission and maybe Chief Morris, someone come in and just kind of give you all an update, and that might be something just to hear from them, kind of the progress. I don't know where everyone thought about that. So you all could ask your questions and kind of directly to them. And that one big conversation, which was brought up by Paige Lewis, and she's in that committee as well. She brought up the air curtain burners and the importance of helping getting those liabilities taken care of. And that was she did a really great job bringing that up. And it was something that we know we heard from folks at the Forest Health Council tour. We know that's an issue, and it was a really great discussion. And so maybe we want to have them come and talk about that. I really don't feel I can accurately share with you all of the points that were made. I'm sure we can get that recording of that meeting, but it was really a great discussion. I thought maybe that might be a topic we could ask them to come and talk to us as a committee. Any thoughts on that? That's one topic I had.
Sorry, I can't raise my hand. I think that's a really good idea. I also wonder if we should bring them into the full council to strengthen the connection with the full council. I know that like Director Morgan is on the council, and so maybe he could just give something and then we could do a more in-depth thing with this committee. But I think having both of those connections strengthened would be a great idea.
Thanks, Katie. I think with Chief Morgan, and then also forgot the other gentleman's name. He's also on the Forest Health Council. And I think they had a really good discussion. So maybe we can just ask Angela and them if that's something they could maybe share out about the subcommittee. I think that might be powerful, but Mr. Morgan and then Christy.
Our curtain burners, in my experience, have been a solution of fairly small scale. And so therefore, I don't have a lot of I guess, I don't want to use the wrong word here. I don't think it's a long-term landscape scale solution for forest health in Colorado, but its use as a tool in and around WUI areas to try to promote management, I'm fine with that and what you want to do there, but it's been my experience. We're a Forest Health Council, and I'm trying to think on a broader scale here for what we're doing, and we're looking for solutions for presenters. I have some suggestions. I don't know if you want to deal with this one first, Commissioner, or whether you're looking for ideas in general, but some of mine, I guess, we seem to in Colorado right now have, in the past when we've had smaller but wider dispersion of wildfires, we got a management problem from overstocking. Right now we're grossly understocked on our stands. So many of our really huge fires we sterilize. So we've got a planning problem, but we also have a lot of advanced regen where we actually have a thinning problem. And so one of the big problems that I've run up against in dealing with the Forest Service and other management entities is that by and large, the removal of biomass from the forest on a landscape scale is extremely expensive, and it adds greatly to the cost of what we're doing. And I think I would like to see some presenters that would, where we could look at what is the acceptable level of biomass material on the forest floor. Can we manipulate it to reach fuels reduction or fire reduction standards? How much can we leave? I think that's a huge question that we're going to have to ask, because it traditionally varies the cost of doing the management work, sometimes 2 or 3 to 1. So I think, and then when we remove too much biomass, we essentially have a use or disposal problem as well. And I see a big movement right now, and everybody wants to go in and manage the forest and move all this biomass. And from what I've seen, it's prohibitively expensive most of the time. There are places where it is appropriate, again, in the WUI areas and stuff. But I would like to see some presentations on cost benefit for what we can scientifically leave, and how can we manipulate forest fuels to meet our fire management goals and our management goals without necessarily having to remove a bunch of biomass. I think that's going to be a huge topic for you. I think it's going to be one that's going to really, and I think another thing that I kind of mentioned last week about looking at a 30-year plan, however we manage these forests, I think one thing that the public, we have to educate the public to, is that no management is a forest management decision. And it has huge consequences. If we don't do anything, it's not like the forest stays there. That's what we've got now, is a no management decision. So I think we have to look at, from a forest council, what areas do we want to, and how do we want to, what levels of management? It can be through fire, it can be through harvest, it can be through grazing, it can be through a lot of ways. But then the other thing is, after we get some kind of management in these areas, whatever we choose to do, then we have to look at how we sustain that. And that to me is the 30-year part, Are we gonna re-enter? If we have a big fire and we get a whole bunch of lodgepole pine regeneration, are we gonna thin it, not thin it? Are we gonna burn it every 30 years? What's our plan? And I think that's part of this council's mandate, I guess. I would like to see some presenters at that topic. I think I run my mouth too much again, but I feel that those are two really important topics. We've got to look at solutions of scale. We've got to look at solutions we can afford. And we have to look at people that can help us do that. And then what's our long-term plan as we bring these stands under management? What's our goal? Are we going to have one entry every 100 years? Are we going to work every 20, 30 years? I think that's huge. I thank you for your indulgence on that.
I agree, and I think those are great topics. And I think we had talked about last meeting, bringing this up to the full Forest Health Council and kind of getting their thoughts on a 30-year plan, because I know this was brought up also in the leveraging resources meeting, that they were talking about this as well. And so it'd be great to know, kind of get the full Forest Health Council's view on that, and then maybe get some topics for us to maybe each subcommittee kind of break that up, because that's a huge undertaking. And I think there was also a discussion about having a whole separate subcommittee looking at this, and I'm not sure where that goes. So, but I think those are great topics, and I agree with you. The air curtain burner is not the solution, but I figure some groups, it's one more tool in the toolbox. I'm wondering if we could, I was hoping before I go to Christy, just to build off what you said, Mark, is maybe we can get the Gates Family Foundation or Director McCombs or someone to kind of share what's going on with that space, since they just had another big meeting about that. I sure be curious what's going on there. I was very impressed with what they had to say at our last Forest Health Council meeting. And so I would love to see if we can add that or have them come, or someone who can share what's going on in that space, so we can maybe work in collaboration and not kind of in silos. So Christy, thanks for your patience with your hand. What's your ideas?
Sure. So some of the notes that I had written down for presenters, me personally, I would like to hear from presenters who have seen some success, and how we can encourage those ideas to maybe be scaled. I would like to see presentations for things that are actually working, as opposed to maybe concepts, and just maybe, just figure out, what's working here, and how do we get behind those actions and not concepts, and make some changes and make things happen. Probably easier said than done, but that would be my preference, that our time spent is on actionable items. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Great points. And I think that was some of the things we asked with that direction, was to kind of get some of those from those presentations and stuff with the vapor pressure deficit and some of those things. Maybe some of those actions will come out, or exemplars. But I think you're also talking about like either prescribed burn or ranching, grazing things. Maybe we need to go through all those,
Yes.
like beavers and all kinds of things. Maybe we need to have a discussion. And I think some of that was on I think about going back to our original list of ideas or topics or priorities. And I'm wondering if we should revisit all of those again and make sure we haven't forgotten some of those things that we had thought about and talked about before, making sure we kind of revisit that old list and see how we thought about some of those priorities and discussions that the full Forest Health Council voted on, and some of those other previous discussions. And maybe we need to go back and revisit that and make sure we have explored and addressed all those before too. And so I don't want to rethought about that. So that might be something to do at our next meeting. But Christy, your hand's raised again. Thank you.
An example that I'm thinking of off the top of my head is a presentation that was done here in Steamboat at another local council meeting. And it was Clyde Church's subdivision down in La Plata County. and what they had done as a community. And it had all kinds of positive ramifications, including stopping a wildfire. And that to me is just a perfect example of, things that can be done to, basically they got all of their community members involved and it made a huge difference. And so that may be a worthwhile presentation. There was a video that was made on it and it wasn't very long. That's just an example.
Great. And maybe we can go again and talk to the Northern Colorado Fireshed Coalition. And I know like their example of the Shambhala Center that basically, did not burn when they were in the middle of the Cameron Peak fire and slowed it down and let them get ahead. There's a lot of examples, but also it might be some examples to look at what didn't work and what was something that did not go well at all and the lessons learned from there. I know we keep looking for exemplars, but maybe we also can find examples in our region of things that did not work well at all. And then there's probably powerful lessons to learn from there as well. And I don't know, maybe James and Angela have some thoughts about that, some ideas or concepts that were explored in other regions or other areas that just was not a good outcome. And I know we have some examples that are coming to mind for me, but Julie, what would you like to add to that?
Yeah, question on that, just train of thought, because I'm a big fan of lessons learned, what works, what doesn't. Are communities documenting that in some form or fashion that we could like seek to compile that and have that information before us to inform that? I don't know if there's any sort of uniform way that communities who have been through that experience are looking to, reflect and capture those lessons learned. I admittedly haven't followed up on those things.
That's a great question. I don't know if James and Angela, probably you guys have conversations with your colleagues and peers around the state and the region. I don't know if there's, like, I know at the wildfire conferences or the other conferences you go to, if there's some debriefings or some conversations about other areas. I don't know if you guys know of any clearinghouse of that kind of information or not that we could kind of talk about, or someone who's an expert on that. And then maybe that's kind of the Headwaters Economics group too. I don't know if someone from Headwaters Economics who have really been really instrumental kind of at the wildfire conference this past year. Dr. Kimiko was really, really pushing about workforce capacity, and it sounded like we were on the right track with our previous successful attempt for legislation. So I don't know, that's a great thing. Maybe we can ask staff if they have ideas about that, because I think if we're going to talk about exemplars, there's always lots of, like you said, there's always a great fan of lessons learned that we can add to our discussion, I think.
Could I
Yeah, Katie, go ahead.
that? Awesome. I'm trying to get let in on my computer. I just got to the office. If someone's able to let me in, then I can use all the cool function. But I was just gonna say, with the Colorado Forest Collaboratives Network, which I coordinate, we work with a bunch of different place-based, on the ground, community-based organizations that do a lot of work. And I would be happy to explore different success stories if we're wanting to go on a really local level. I had also put in the Google Drive, or somebody had put it in there for me maybe, but that I would love to gather collaborative perspectives and share them up as a topic. But I think we could go even further than that, and I'd be happy to pull some success stories in. It's a lot harder to get people to talk about failures. I've been kind of trying to recruit people for a webinar series that I run, and a lot of people don't want to tell the whole state about their failures, but we can also try and shoot for that as well.
Thanks, Katie. I think if we could maybe send some of these again through Courtney or Angela or James, they could throw them all onto a document so we can work from that document. So, okay, so we've got some ideas there. Those are some big topics that would take a lot of meetings already. Any other burning desires for topics? And again, this is not a permanent list. This list can grow and change as we explore more. Any other thoughts or additions?
Yeah, Jody, this is Samantha. Sorry, I can't be on the computer today, driving to another meeting here, but there was a doc that Courtney had Jenna had linked out in her email. There's a few things that I had shared, I think last meeting, take them or leave them, but I think probably one important one is maybe having some sort of presentation of the Colorado outdoor strategy, just because I know that that's like, there's a lot that's going to come out of that final strategy. And I think it'd probably be important to have some of this work connected to that.
Excellent point and excellent idea. And thanks for reminding me about that list you already sent in. So, is there a way, James, that we can throw all this on one list and add whatever list Courtney and Angela have had from Samantha, edit in and make sure maybe we can all get that sent out to us as a document with everything on it so we can kind of review that before the next meeting. Thank you, Samantha. That's an excellent point. I think you're right. If we want to collaborate and partner where we can, or at least not have strategies or policy conflicting as we go forward. But if it is conflicting, that might be an important conversation to have too. So, Mr. Morgan.
Yes, one possible suggestion would be your industry as a whole in Colorado is one portion of your solution to this, and oftentimes they work on a large scale format, and I think it might be interesting, or just a suggestion, to reach out to, say, Ben Woodkey with the Intermountain Forest Association or Colorado Timber Industry Association to present the capabilities and what they do and how they go about it, because I think there's a lot of misinformation, or a lot of people in different groups that are trying to achieve management on the forest do not actually know the tools that are available and how they work and the scale that they work on. So I think if there was someone there that could say, this is what's available, this is what works, this is what doesn't work, and make a presentation. So I think that could be one more tool in the toolbox of this group. I think it's one that's, it kind of gets left out. We get representing industry, we contribute to things like this, but I think as an industry, we need to be more proactive, and I would be happy to reach out if they were interested as a group to have someone take more of an overview of what's available in the state for what you guys can use and what you could work with. I think it might be useful to you as well.
Great point. With all great things to add to the list. And this is becoming a big list, so, which is important, but I want to make sure, I think these are good topics. And of course, the woody biomass is continuing to be a big conversation. And I know I keep hearing it on the ground. And I think Angela also mentioned Brett Wolk be a good speaker on slash issues. So they had written a good paper. So maybe have Brett come and talk from a force, from the leveraging resources. He's on the council, and that might be a good kind of intersection for us as well. So I think this is a pretty good list. How about we send it out to everybody and then have everybody kind of review it, think about it, and we can kind of start to then let James and Angela and Courtney kind of start to think about presentations for this fall. And again, I want to say this is the final list. I just thought this is a good spot for them to start reaching out to speakers and setting things up instead of kind of having to scramble. Katie.
One other thing, I don't think it necessarily needs to be its own line item, but I would encourage us to maybe, since we're the policy committee, look out at other states as well, as opposed to just Colorado, because I think, like, if we're just thinking about what's already happening or already been done, then we're not going to get as far as if we look to other states that are doing the things that we want to do and kind of taking notes from what they've done policy wise.
Well, and that's why and I appreciate that idea. I appreciate that. And that's why I suggested Headwater Economics out of Montana, because they do study this nationwide and write a lot of great papers, and we're a fantastic speaker. And so that's why I think they would be great, because they're kind of becoming the one of the groups that people look to. They were one of the featured speakers. Also, I thought one other suggestion is, I know this November, the Director Gibbs and Dr. Kimiko was with Headwater Economics are on that national Biden commission. And I think those results are coming out this fall. And so I don't know if that's a full Forest Health Council discussion, but I think we should leave a space for that report and those recommendations, because they are looking at state policies nationwide. And so I think that would be a really important, once Dr. Director Gibbs can talk about that and we get that report, to look at what kind of ideas or suggestions are in that as well, since those folks are looking at exemplars and lessons learned nationwide. And so I don't know when that's coming out. Maybe Angela will remember, or maybe James knows, and that would be something we can have a deep dive on that report and those commission recommendations. I think that would be important. I see a lot of head nodding, so I think that. Okay, so we're almost out of time, and I feel like this is a pretty good list to start working from. Does anyone else have any other thoughts? Because I wanted to leave a little bit of time, and I know it's not really on the agenda, but because it was kind of potential topics or speakers, I feel like I wanted to, Director Morgan from the last meeting had brought up that Front Range had been contacted by the governor's office about workforce capacity in that presentation. And I wanted to make sure that we circle back, because I do hear once again that, workforce capacity, I think, should be on the list continuing. So I think that's another topic. And so I thought maybe we needed to find out how that went and see if they need to be also a list of potential speakers or topics. And that's how I'm connecting this to our agenda item into the list. So I hope you see how I'm doing that there. Mr. Morgan.
I was responsible for the disinformation. I tracked that down, and what it was the governor wanted to meet with students, and so the community college in Denver was the site, and he wanted to meet with students from several of the colleges. So the different colleges sent students down there, and it was a fact-finding photo operation, and it went fairly well. And the different students from the different community colleges presented their views to represent the colleges. It's been dealt with. It went fine. And at the time I got that, I was asking you people to see who knew what was what. And then after that, we found that and got it done. So that was the case there. And as far as your long list, I accept full responsibility and blame for your list getting that long. So.
Well, I don't mind a long list. I just figured these are pretty meaty topics. So I figure we don't want to have staff, trying to get them to not have to have too many speakers to line up, since we're going to be starting to have some of these topics right off the bat. But I'm always welcoming a long list, because this is a big, comprehensive, complex issue and for us to work on. And so I figure we just need to talk about it all, and then hopefully we get some more actionable items for us to look on or direct. So it'll be really exciting. So I think that we've pretty much, and thank you for the update on the council, on the Front Range. Hopefully they got some of those forestry students down there to talk about the program and how we need to expand that. So that's great. So I just want to give you guys back some time today, but I wanted to make sure we kind of, I think we got a really good list, and we've got some great topics, and then I think we can get ready to, I don't know which one, we'll just see maybe how the list goes for the next meeting. If there's already a topic or someone we can kind of jump on, whether, it's an easier topic with a local speaker, but any other thoughts or questions or concerns? Otherwise, I'd like to give you back a few more minutes in your day. Okay. Well, thank you all for your time. I think this was really productive meeting and I think that list is great. And I'm sure we'll get that sent out to us. And if you have any questions, reach out to us, and just thank you all for your time and the conversation. I'm looking forward. It's going to be weird this year. I look forward to it, but we're going to be doing kind of two things. We'll be working on our recommendations for this group. We have not heard back from the interim committee, and then we're also still kind of planning for the next one. So it's going to be interesting to see how we balance those, but I know that we can do it. So I'm looking forward to that conversation, but we'll have to make sure we always have space on the agenda for both kind of tracks, I guess. I don't know how else to call them, but we're on two different tracks here. So, but I think we can do it. And, the other quick question I have, James, do we know if going to the next Forest Health Council of Angela, can we ask the question if for travel, is that going to be covered again for expenses? I had someone ask me
is.
that. Okay. And how do we
And
submit for that?
If you reach out to me, I can give you guys the form. I know that Samantha has already reached out. Thank you. I hope that went well. But yeah, if you guys are planning on traveling, the Forest Service is going to be covering the reimbursements there. So just send me an email and I'll send you the documents that you need to fill out and send to CSU.
Excellent. Thank you. I just know I got that question, so I thought I asked so that everyone could get the same information. And with that, I will look for a motion to adjourn. Thank you all. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'd so move.
And second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Happy Friday. Get outside, enjoy our beautiful forest, and have a great day, everyone. Thank you again for your service. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thank
Have a
you.
good week.
Thanks all.
Thanks, Jake.